Learning English podcast.
What if the reason you keep failing those advanced English grammar tests has literally nothing to do with grammar at all?
Right. I mean, think about that feeling. You're trying to refine your English, you open a textbook, and you're just staring at one of those massive, terrifying matrices.
All the charts, yeah, they're the worst.
Exactly. They're full of rigid columns, endless exceptions, little arrows pointing to different tenses.
Yeah, and the natural reaction isn't to feel empowered, it's to feel entirely paralyzed. Your brain just, well, it just freezes up.
It's the ultimate form of cognitive overload, to be honest. I mean, language evolved as a tool to connect us to other human beings.
Right.
But those traditional charts, they turn communication into, like, a bomb defusal exercise.
Sure.
You start second-guessing every syllable.
Because it feels like one wrong conjugation and the whole sentence is going to just explode in your face.
Exactly.
Well, we're doing something completely different for this deep dive. We are taking those traditional grammar charts and we are just throwing them right out the window.
I love that. Good riddance.
Right. We're working from some incredibly refreshing source material that tackles 3 of the most notoriously confused words in the English language.
Be, being, and being.
Yes, those 3. I mean, these words look almost identical. They sound super similar, and yet they carry vastly different psychological weights.
They really do.
And our mission today is not to memorize a single rule. Instead, we're going to use some powerful visual metaphors to actually feel the mechanics behind these words.
That's the best way to do it.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core premise we are looking at today is that confusing these words isn't a grammar problem. It's actually a fundamental failure to understand how English conceptualizes time.
Yeah, and that shift in perspective changes everything, English relies heavily on these 3 specific words to orient the listener in time and space.
Okay, how so?
Well, they're the subtle cues that tell whoever is listening whether you're describing your permanent core identity or maybe a prolonged experience you've accumulated over weeks or years.
Or just an anomaly, right? Like how you happen to be behaving right in this exact millisecond.
Precisely. If you just try to memorize them as vocabulary words on a flashcard, you will always stumble. You have to understand the timeline they're trying to build.
Right, okay. So before we get into the messy complexities of bridging the past to the present, we probably need a baseline.
Yeah, a starting point.
Right. If we are using these words to map out time, where does time actually start? And the material provides a really brilliant visual anchor for this.
The house metaphor.
Yes. Imagine a house. Inside this house, there are 3 distinct rooms. Room number 1 represents the word be. B-E.
The raw, concrete foundation of the house.
Exactly. Or, if it helps, think of it like a mirror that only shows a static reflection. It describes a condition or an identity, but it never, ever describes an action.
Right. It is the absolute starting point of existence. It represents the state of things stripped of any historical baggage or, future anxiety.
Let's look at how we use this in high-stakes, everyday situations. Imagine you are standing outside an office, about to walk into a massive job interview.
Oh, nerve-wracking.
Totally.
Yeah.
You look at your reflection and you say, I want to be confident. Or you have a friend gripping the armrests right before a flight takes off, and you tell them, try to be calm. Or someone is driving in a torrential downpour, and you warn them, you need to be careful. None of those are physical actions like running or lifting or typing.
No, they're purely states of mind. You are talking about the baseline reality of a person or a situation.
That makes me think of an analogy. Is the word be essentially the grammatical equivalent of a resting heart rate?
Oh, like that.
Like, is it our default state of existence entirely detached from a timeline?
That resting heart rate analogy captures the mechanics perfectly, actually. Be is the foundational reality. There is no past to analyze. There's no future to predict. There is just the fundamental truth of what something is in its absolute essence. And what's fascinating here is how heavily we rely on this tiny 2-letter word for our absolute biggest, most ambitious life goals.
Oh, like what?
Well, when you are launching a startup, you don't declare to your investors, I want to do success. You say, I want to be successful.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're trying to weave that success into the concrete foundation of your identity. You're declaring a permanent state.
Precisely. You are asking for a fundamental shift in your room 1 reality. You aren't just looking for an action to perform. You are looking for a new reflection in that mirror.
Okay, I buy the mirror metaphor for establishing a baseline, but the mirror metaphor kind of fails the moment we actually need to explain human growth.
How do you mean?
Well, a static foundation doesn't explain the grind. If B is just who I am as a permanent state, how do I explain to someone the 5 years of late nights and early mornings it took to get here?
Right.
I didn't just spawn into existence with this identity. We need a way to track the journey, which requires a completely different mechanism.
And that necessity is exactly why language evolved the tools found in room number 2. A static mirror cannot show momentum.
So room number 2 introduces the word been, B-E-E-N, and the visual shifts entirely here. We're no longer staring at a static reflection.
No, we are looking at a heavy physical bridge.
Yes, exactly. The start of this bridge is firmly anchored somewhere in the past, maybe yesterday, maybe 5 years ago, and the end of the bridge lands right under your feet, connecting directly to the present day.
It is a structural marvel when you think about how efficiently it works in a conversation.
Yeah.
It flawlessly connects a historical starting point to your current reality in just a single syllable.
Let's look at the social utility of this bridge. Say a friend calls, annoyed that you haven't texted them back all week. You need to defend yourself and summarize a chaotic timeline.
So you say, I have been busy lately.
Exactly. Or your sister has worked a grueling 50-hour week. She walks in looking completely wrecked. You look at her and say, she has been tired all week.
Notice the scope of the exhaustion in that second example. The tiredness didn't just strike her like a bolt of lightning the moment she walked through the door.
Right.
It is a continuous bridge of exhaustion that she has been dragging across the entire week.
Okay, but I'm stuck on something here, mechanically speaking. If the goal is just to communicate that she is exhausted from working, why do we need this complex bridge structure at all?
What's the alternative?
Why not just use the simple past and say she was tired? Or the simple present and say she is tired? Why do we need the clunky have been?
Because the simple past and simple present are completely isolated. If you say she was tired, you isolate the exhaustion in the past. It's a dead event.
Oh, I see. It implies she might be totally fine now.
Exactly. And if you say she is tired, you ignore the history entirely. It sounds like she just got sleepy a minute ago.
Right, right.
The phrase she has been tired does something entirely different. It drags the heavy weight of the past directly into the present moment. It demands that the listener acknowledge the duration and the grind.
That makes total sense. It forces the listener to respect the timeline. And the source material actually breaks this down further in a section called the Mistake Lab.
Oh, I love the Mistake Lab.
It's so good. It deliberately breaks the rules of English to expose the underlying machinery. They ask you to say this phrase out loud, I am been tired.
Oof, yeah.
Let me tell you, just physically forming those words feels incredibly uncomfortable. My brain is actively rejecting the sentence before I finish speaking it.
Totally natural reaction.
But why does it fail so catastrophically on a mechanical level?
It fails because you are taking two completely incompatible concepts of time and trying to force them into the exact same slot.
Okay.
Am is a pinpoint. It means right now, in this exact isolated microsecond. But been is a long, stretching bridge.
Yeah.
You cannot take a static pinpoint and use it to build a historical bridge. The structural integrity of the sentence just collapses entirely.
You can't make a dot act like a line.
Exactly.
So to fix the structural collapse, we need a different kind of anchor.
You need a word that functions as an engine to power that bridge. You need the word have or has. Those are the anchors you drive into the past.
Oh, okay.
So instead of the collapsing, I am been tired, you say, I have been tired. The word have establishes the grip in the past, allowing been to stretch the bridge over to today.
I have been tired. The tension instantly disappears. It is structurally sound again. And there's a massive psychological weight to this choice, too.
How so?
Well, think about a professional musician. There is a world of difference between them telling you, I practice the piano, versus them looking you right in the eye and saying, I have been practicing for years.
And absolutely. The second phrase commands an entirely different level of respect. It isn't just a grammatical choice to convey a timeline. It is an assertion of dedication.
Yeah.
It forces the listener to visualize the thousands of hours invested. That is a golden rule of room 2. Been is the mechanism we use to tell our story over time.
Been tells your story over time. I love that.
Yeah.
So we have the raw resting heart rate foundation in room 1 with Been. We have the long, heavy bridge of history in room 2 with Ben. But what happens when someone breaks character?
The anomaly.
Right. What happens when there is an anomaly? The bridge doesn't work because there's no long history of this behavior, and the foundation doesn't work because this isn't their core identity. We need a way to capture the anomaly.
Which forces us to open the door to room number 3.
Yes. Room number 3 gives us the word being, B-E-I-N-G. And the visual metaphor here is totally distinct. It is a live security camera.
It's the perfect representation of the word. A live security camera doesn't care about the history of the building, and it doesn't care about the architectural foundation. It only records the raw action happening right in front of its lens in this exact isolated second.
It is entirely detached from the photo album of room 2. Imagine you have a colleague who was famously stoic. That stoicism is their room 1 foundation.
Okay.
But today, they are pacing around the office, practically hyperventilating over a minor scheduling error. You would observe that anomaly and say, he is being dramatic. Or, conversely, a friend who never stops talking is sitting completely silent in the corner. You point the camera at them and say, she is being quiet today.
You are acknowledging the temporary departure from their baseline. You are recognizing the anomaly.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The material frames this live camera as a neutral observation, a way to offer critique without insulting someone's identity.
Yes.
But I have to push back on the idea that room 3 is purely a safe, neutral space.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, if I am in a heated argument with a coworker and I tell them, you are being impossible, I am not just neutrally pointing a camera at them, I am actively judging them. Doesn't this whole safe observation metaphor kind of fall apart the second we introduce real human conflict?
That is a highly perceptive challenge. You are right that the judgment is absolutely still there. Calling someone impossible is never neutral.
Exactly.
However, the scope of the judgment changes entirely, and that is what matters in conflict resolution. It is the subtle difference between an identity attack and a behavioral critique.
Walk me through the blast radius of that difference.
Well, if you look at that coworker and say, you are impossible, you've just detonated a bomb in room 1.
Oh, wow.
You are attacking their concrete foundation. You are telling them their permanent, static identity is fundamentally flawed. People defend their foundation to the death, and that is why the argument escalates.
That makes a lot of sense.
But if you say you are being impossible, the explosion is confined entirely to room 3. You are signaling, I know you are generally a reasonable person, but this specific action right now, captured on this camera, is unacceptable.
Oh, that is fascinating. You are giving them an exit strategy.
Yes.
Like, you can walk out of room 3 tomorrow and go back to being reasonable, but you can't easily rebuild a shattered foundation in room 1.
Exactly. It isolates the behavior from the identity. And mechanically, this live camera requires power to operate, which brings us back to the mistake lab.
Okay, let's hear it.
Look at the broken sentence, I being happy.
Ugh. Again, the ear instantly catches the air. It sounds like a car engine sputtering out.
Because a live security camera cannot record anything if you don't plug it into a power source. You can't just throw the word being out into the void and expect it to capture the action.
It needs electricity.
Right. In English grammar, that electrical current is provided by the words am, is, or are.
You have to flip the power switch before the camera can record. So it becomes, I am being happy. Or, if you are watching a colleague expertly diffuse a tense negotiation with a client, you don't just say, she being professional, the camera is dead. You flip the switch. She is being incredibly professional.
And the camera powers on, the lens focuses, and it records the temporary brilliance of her interaction.
This highlights why visualizing these concepts is infinitely more effective than trying to memorize a grid in a textbook. Exploring these 3 rooms in isolation really clarifies the underlying logic.
It does.
But real life doesn't happen in isolation. Native speakers aren't pausing to think about which room they are in, right? They are sprinting through these rooms interchangeably.
Oh, absolutely. The ultimate test of fluency is seeing how the exact same root word paints 3 wildly different psychological pictures depending on the metaphor you apply.
The speed at which we transition between these time frames in casual conversation is just staggering. You have to intuitively feel the shift from identity to experience to temporary behavior.
Let's walk through the side-by-side application using a single target word. Let's use confident.
Okay, let's do it.
If we are standing in room 1, looking in the mirror at our foundational state, we say, I want to be confident.
Right. You are declaring a long-term goal for your core identity.
Then we step into room 2. We look back at the long bridge connecting our past struggles to our current reality. We say, I have been confident lately.
You are validating a prolonged experience. You are tracking the momentum of that feeling over weeks or months.
Finally, we step into room 3. We point the live security camera at an anomaly happening right in this exact second. We say, "You are being confident today."
You are observing a temporary spike in behavior that might not match the usual baseline. The root word never changed, but the entire architecture of the thought shifted based on the tools you used.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, to really drive the speed of this home, let's look at the office role-play scenario from the material.
Oh yeah, the role play is great.
Imagine 2 coworkers, totally panicked, frantically prepping for a massive presentation. In the span of about 10 seconds, they're going to unconsciously jump through all 3 rooms.
Okay, set the scene.
Coworker A looks up and says, "You need to be prepared."
Room 1. A demand to establish a solid baseline before the meeting.
Coworker B snaps back, "I have been stressed all morning."
Room 2. Building a bridge of anxiety from 8:00 a.m. straight to this exact moment.
Coworker A tries to de-escalate the tension and says, "Look, you're being too hard on yourself."
Room 3. Pointing the camera at the temporary hypercritical behavior happening in that isolated panic.
And coworker B exhales and finishes with, "I know, I just want to be professional."
Back to room 1. Reestablishing the foundational goal.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? I think it proves that you don't need to be intimidated by the mechanics of the English language.
Definitely not.
If you can visualize these metaphors, the static mirror, the heavy bridge, the live camera, the mental imagery takes on the cognitive load. You stop trying to remember which arbitrary column a word belongs in, and you start utilizing the language as a natural extension of your perception of time.
It proves that true language mastery isn't about rapid-fire internal translation. It is about spatial awareness.
It's spatial awareness, yeah.
When you can literally picture the bridge connecting yesterday to today, the grammar ceases to be a mathematical equation. It just becomes an organic reflex.
It completely removes the terror of the textbook. So let's lock the doors of this metaphorical house and consolidate the 3 core mechanics we've mapped out today.
Let's do it.
Rule number 1. B is the raw, concrete foundation of your identity. It dictates your condition, never your action. Rule number 2. Bin is the structural bridge of your experience. It drags the weight of the past directly into the present to tell your story. And rule number 3. Being is the live security camera. It requires a power source to capture temporary anomalies in behavior that deviate from the baseline.
Mastering those 3 mechanisms gives you absolute precision in how you present your reality to the world. But this raises an important question.
What's that?
If we pull the lens back even further, there is a profound psychological application to this that goes far beyond just language learning.
Okay, I'm listening.
We touched on how these distinct grammatical choices change the blast radius of conflict with others, right?
Yeah, the difference between attacking someone's foundation by saying you are impossible versus critiquing their temporary behavior with you are being impossible.
Right, confining the explosion to room 3.
Exactly.
So what happens when we turn that exact same grammatical logic inward? Think about the internal monologue you have when you make a catastrophic mistake at work or when you fail at a personal goal.
Oh, it's usually pretty brutal.
The default human reaction is to instantly condemn our room 1 identity. We look in the mirror and say, "I am a failure."
We attack our own concrete foundation. We define it as a permanent, immovable state.
But what if you applied the mechanics of room 3 to your own internal self-talk? What if, in the middle of a massive failure, you forced yourself to power on the live camera and say, "I am being unskillful right now," or "I am being careless today"?
Wow. You immediately isolate the failure.
You strip the mistake of its permanence.
Yeah.
You acknowledge the reality of the error without allowing it to infect your core identity.
It is just a temporary anomaly captured on tape.
Exactly. You can turn the camera off tomorrow and try again. It begs a really fascinating question. Could deconstructing the hidden psychology of English grammar actually be a secret shortcut to mastering self-compassion?
That is a phenomenal takeaway. We started this deep dive talking about the paralyzing dread of complex grammar charts.
The fear of navigating those murky binary rules where every mistake feels like a failure of intelligence.
But when you ditch the matrix and start looking at the mechanics of time, the mirror, the bridge, the camera, the fog completely clears. You realize that mastering these tiny, confusing words isn't just about speaking English with more accuracy. It might just be the key to speaking a little more kindly and accurately to yourself.